What's up, people? Nature Girl 30 here, and this is another mini Q&A number 101. Guys, for those that thought I forgot about you when you guys have sent me questions on YouTube, I actually recorded on Wednesday, so when you sent me something on Thursday, it was already done. It just wasn't uploaded for other reasons, for time reasons. But either way, guys, I know you sent me YouTube questions. I didn't forget you. And I also got more Twitter questions this time. I'm still sticking to my 5-question max. So if you sent me a whole bunch of them, some of them going to have to wait until the next Q&A. But let's get started with the first set of questions that I got via Twitter. Elliot Powell actually sent me 7 of these. So I'm going to answer his last 2. His 6th question for me is, if all the people that could have fought Brock Lesnar, is it possible that the wrestlers are all afraid of him? Yeah, pretty much. That dude's a beast. I'm sorry. Brock Lesnar is a beast. When he says he will beat you down, he will beat you down, and he will mean it. The guy is very strong. And for those that thought that Cena was strong, even though Cena can deadlift more than 500 pounds, he pretty much tossed him around like a rag doll, which he can do that with anybody. Seriously. So the only possible way you can beat Brock Lesnar, in my opinion, is if 2 people are on him. And it would have to take both of them to work together. Seriously. That's how it would have to be. But either or, and it would have to be bigger than him, of course. But yeah, I think people are terrified of him. Your last question for me is, do you agree that the WWE has downgraded too much? They're making today's wrestlers look like wimps. Yeah, they're making today's wrestlers look like wimps and too much talking. Yeah, I will agree that is one of the biggest downfalls of WWE, is that there's way too much dialogue, way too much storyline, and no emphasis on the characters as well as the matches themselves. You can have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but too much of this and too much of that can get boring really quick. And I actually did do a video on Lucha Underground versus the WWE. For those that haven't seen it, by all means, check that out. And honestly, yeah, I really do agree with you. They have downgraded a lot. Oh yeah, you have other questions for me. 8 and 9. Okay. Dream match. Bray Wyatt versus Taker will happen. Do you think that this should happen at WrestleMania 30? Or this should have happened at WrestleMania 30? Or do you want Dean versus Bray? We've already had Dean versus Bray, and Dean versus Bray was pretty much washed down. It was washed just completely down the tubes. There was so much they could have done with that feud, and they done very little with it. So, I mean, I really don't know anymore. We've had a lot of Bray versus Dean matches, and I'm kind of done. It's time to move forward and do something else. Do I really believe there's going to be a match with him versus Taker? Heck no. No way. There's not going to be a match versus Taker and Bray, because Taker is in no condition to be performing at all. I'm sorry, he isn't. I really wouldn't be surprised if it's just going to be him showing up with his music, beating the crap out of Bray, and leaving. There's not going to be a match, guys. If you expect it, I'm sorry. But like I said, you know, if I'm proven wrong, fine, I will deal with it. But I doubt there's going to be a match between those two. It's just going to be an appearance. That's it. But let's move on from there to my friend, Mr. Griffin. Question for your Q&A. Would you say that Phoenix versus Mil Mietes casket match was the best casket match ever? Yes, it was. It was the most brutal casket match I've ever witnessed in my life. I didn't think a casket match could be like that. I mean, it literally put all Undertaker's matches to shame. For those that have not seen it, by all means, see it. Watch it. They actually do have the match on YouTube, and I will try to have it on my Wrestling Fan Nation page, so you guys go and check that out. By all means, check it out. It is phenomenal. My next set of questions comes from Napoleon Guru. Why is racism alive, and when they want it to die, why is he around when all he does is lie? Honestly, all I can say is I wish I could answer that question, but I really don't know how to, because there's a lot of many layers to it. Unfortunately, there's always good that triumphs over evil. There's always light that conquers darkness. When there is darkness, there's always light, and that light will forever conquer the darkness. Hopefully that can answer your question. Moving on from there, why are the doubters choosing people to speak the truth to? Well, where there is doubt, there's no truth. So either or, they can't really choose someone to speak the truth because there's really no truth behind a doubter. When someone speaks the truth comes out of their mouth and there is no doubt. It is nothing but truth. So in the end, you can't really choose someone to speak the truth if they doubt it. Hopefully that makes sense. Who did Eddie sacrifice to save? Eddie didn't sacrifice anyone to save. Hope that answers your question there. And let me see, you gave me 5. What was what Chris did do to his family ascending from God or the devil? It definitely wasn't from God. I will tell you that. That is something that he does not want because he never intended anyone to die. That alone was not him. That alone definitely was an influence of the devil. That's just me personally. And actually, he never really intended anyone to die, and that's also in the word as well. But moving on from there. Did Chris do what he did to himself and his family to bring destruction to society, especially to wrestling entertainment? No, I don't think there was anything that he did to try to bring down anything. And honestly, I really do have my own personal thoughts about Chris Benoit's that incident. I have my own personal thoughts about it, but I'm going to leave that for another video, another time. But I don't think he was trying to destroy society. I don't think he was trying to prove a point. But I don't think he was trying to bring wrestling entertainment down as well. It's just something that unfortunately happened. But great set of questions, man. And let's move on to the questions that I got from YouTube. My first set of questions comes from Final Limits, and thank you so much for sending me only 5, as well as everyone else. Thank you guys for keeping up the whole 5 max. What if this match took place? Kanye West versus Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania, and Kanye squashed Bryan in under 10 seconds. How do you think the fans would react? Pissed, like I would. I'm not a fan of Kanye, and if Kanye actually did get a 10-second pin, I'll be really upset. I would seriously just be done watching watching WrestleMania. I'll probably turn off WrestleMania and not even care enough about the matches to continue. That's how much I don't like Kanye. But let's move on from there. What if at WrestleMania Roman Reigns teamed up with Cena to take on Bryan and Cesaro, and both Cena and Reigns wins by hitting their finishers, and Bryan and Cesaro at the same exact time, both getting the pin at the same time? That really wouldn't be fun, and that would really, really be booked wrong. But there'll be a lot of people that will be pissed off. I know I would be, because that's hokey and that's extremely corny. That's just me. What did you think of Victoria turning face in 2004 and feud with Molly Holly and hair versus hair match with Molly at WrestleMania 20? The hair versus hair match was interesting, but I never really enjoyed Molly Holly as a heel. I just never did. I enjoyed Victoria more as a heel than her being a face. Either or, I wish they would switch roles. But the hair versus hair match was interesting because even though Molly Holly had that long hair, she ended up getting that pixie cut, and then she ended up, being meaner by the day, and just more of a prude by the day. But I really don't think it did anything for her. I'm not sure if she was that way or not, but I mean, it was all right. The match itself was good. I just never really enjoyed Victoria being a face. What if at WrestleMania Kanye West performs 3 hours straight? Oh, I would cut it off. Seriously, I would go on a very long break, whether or not it would be a snack break, bathroom break, playing video games, whatever. I would do something for those 3 hours until he was off. Seriously. Or unless I would probably stop watching WrestleMania at all, because who knows how long it would go, since WrestleMania is supposed to be 4 hours this year. But moving on from there. What did you think of Kid Rock's performance at WrestleMania 25 before the Divas Battle Royale? Honestly, I don't care much for Kid Rock anymore, and I kind of wish he wasn't there. I don't really know why they have these performances of those that make the theme song. I know if you have a theme song for WrestleMania, more than likely you're gonna perform. Period. because I know it's funny how Kid Rock actually did have a theme song for 25, and he also had a theme song. I think he had a theme song for 25, and he had a theme song for 30, but I don't think he performed in 30. But either or, I really didn't care. I'm not really a big fan of Kid Rock anymore. The next set of questions comes from Nintendo Fanboy 1988. What did you think of Big Daddy V? I loved him. I really did, but him becoming a sex machine was a little bit too uncomfortable for me because I really couldn't imagine him and those really weird contact eyeballs. I'm sorry. I don't know how anybody can literally, seriously kiss a guy, let alone have sex with a guy that has vampire eyes. I'm sorry. No. I couldn't imagine him as a love machine because of those contacts alone. Seriously. Do you think the WrestleMania build this year has been terrible? Yes, it has been very terrible. Mostly because the Royal Rumble was crap. And now that it's crap, they're trying to make up for it, and it's still crap. The build has still been mediocre. They haven't even got a set card yet, and next week happens to be the go-home shows. It's bad, y'all. I really don't know how they're going to make up their money this year for WrestleMania 31, but it don't look good. It just don't. Am I the only one that thinks Mania this year is going to blow? No, you're not. You're really not. I really believe that WrestleMania 31 is not going to be as good as 30. 30 had a lot of historical points, and no one can remake those. There were a lot of great WrestleMania moments for WrestleMania 30, not to mention how Daniel Bryan literally turned WrestleMania 30 around with this match with Batista versus Orton. And by far, he turned that entire pay-per-view around after his win. People knew his name. People who didn't know wrestling knew his name. They got a lot of followers. They got a lot of people subscribing to the network after that. It was a huge plus for them after that. But I really don't know what they're going to do this year, even if they have Sting on the card. I don't think it's going to make a difference. So no, you're not the only one that thinks it's going to suck. Have you heard the fans were forced to change their costumes? Oh yeah, about the guys who dressed up as legends on Raw. Yeah, Mr. Griffin actually did a video on that. If I think he sent me a link. Oh, my bad. I think he sent me a link. So for those that really haven't seen that video, and I think the Lex Man actually did a video as well, check out their channels and actually have done a video on it. So by all means, listen to what they have to say about that. When I actually heard Mr. Griffin's, I was shocked. I'm like, why would it be distracting? That's actually pretty fun. And that's a load of crap. They really had no reason to have these guys literally go back and change because they really weren't dressing offensive. For crying out loud, you didn't really see anybody as a dresser, like what Mr. Griffin said in his video. I didn't really see anybody dressed up as a terrorist or somebody dressed as Chris Benoit. They were actually dressed up as Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake Roberts, you know, your classic legends. So honestly, it was a joke. And they really do need to lighten up. They really do need to lighten up. And that's sad. Who is the biggest aids to the WWE, Vince or Kevin Dunn? I'm not going to really say that they're aids, but I will say that they're the bane of their own existence. Honestly, if it wasn't for Vince McMahon and his terrible, horrible ego that he has now, as well as the submissiveness of Kevin Dunn, if I said that correctly, then there will be a lot more. Let's just put it this way. Vince McMahon's ego is so freaking huge that he can't literally take a step back for his son-in-law to take over. And don't get me wrong, I have issues with Paul Levesque and his ego too. But at least when it comes to him being a wrestler, he's been a wrestler. He's fought other wrestlers. He knows the game. He's been out there for a long time. And he knows exactly what works and what doesn't. So yeah, maybe he's a little bit harder than everyone else is, but for crying out loud, let it back up and let him have the reins. If he's horrible, then fine, whatever. But Vince needs to take a step back. He's becoming his own. He's becoming his own mountain, his own handicap, and he really needs to get. He lost so much touch with the times. And Kevin Dunn is literally the guy who is literally fighting to keep his job, and he'll do whatever Vince says in order to keep it. That's kind of sad, but. Do I consider which one to be the biggest aids? I really wouldn't say aids, but like I said, the biggest handicap or the biggest bane of, the worst person for the company? Both. Yeah. That's what I have to say. That. Pretty much both of them. Moving on from there to Justin Side. What do you think of the build-up of Triple H and Randy Orton's feud in '09? It was done well. I enjoyed it. I really did. The fact that Triple H came to his house and threw him out his window, I think by far was great. It really was. Not to mention, we actually had a chance to see his wife for the first time, and his home and his family for the first, well, not his daughter, but pretty much his wife. And that was pretty interesting to see the life of Randy Orton, as well as seeing Triple H throw him through a window. I kind of thought that was pretty interesting. What do you think when Triple H and Evolution turned on Randy Orton after he won the title in '04? That was a turning point in Randy's career. It was. It was when we saw a very aggressive, very domineering, very vindictive, very vengeful Randy. And it was a huge turning point in his career. We saw a darker version of him that absolutely worked. That was the best heel work I have seen him done in a very long time. And it was great. It was played out so well. And it was actually a great way to start things off, especially for him. I thought it was done fairly well. What if Sting won all the titles in WWE after Mania? I would be pissed. You guys know I'm not a big fan of Sting, so I'm kind of happy that will never happen. But honestly, yeah, that would really piss me off. Does it annoy you that Slick Daddy? Oh, well, I really don't. Look, if I don't even watch that anymore, so I'm not going to really do a question about that. But, well, okay, since I already said it, I might as well finish it. Dagnabbit. Does it annoy you that Slick Daddy from OTRS is always twitching his left eye? I wouldn't know because I really haven't watched Jeff's videos in a long time. I haven't, so I really wouldn't know. But if it annoys you, sorry, it's a blepharospasm. It actually does happen, especially whether or not it's from bad nerves or whether or not it's just that's how your eye twitches. It happens, just an eye twitch. Moving on to Shoro Roro Ha-Yo-Yor. What did you think when Shawn Michaels returned to the WWE in '02 and joined the NWO? Wasn't really too happy about that. I really wasn't too happy to even see the NWO there. Just wasn't happy at all. Ever watched Good Times? Oh yeah. I've always watched it. I mean, I wasn't born when it came out, but I did watch it, and it was a really good show for its era. What episode did you like the most? And if you watched that show, gosh, I think the transitions that were going on before the show went off the air, like when it's like I think James passed away. After James passed away, those episodes afterwards, but when you finally saw the transition of when Thelma got engaged and she got engaged, I think she got married too, and how JJ moved out, and seeing the transition, and also how the youngest son went to school, seeing how the transition of them actually leaving the hood was pretty much a really great finale to the show. Actually seeing them get better and do better. So I would have to say the finale is one of the best shows, episodes of the series. There were many of them, and so many that I watched that I really can't remember. And there were a lot of really gripping tales, and especially the one when Penny came along, and when we found out what has happened to Penny, what her mom was abused her, and how Penny was adopted by Winona. Honestly, I think that was a touching episode as well, when we found out a little bit more about Penny's background and also how Winona actually did adopt her. I think that was beautiful. I really think that was also an episode that I really liked. But yeah, that's a really great show. What was more successful in the '90s, Full House or Family Matters? Ooh. Well, I have to say they were both pretty successful. Family Matters was pretty much towards I think it was maybe the mid '80s, and it was on its way out on the '90s. And Family Matters pretty much came into the late '80s to the early '90s. Either or, I gotta say they were both successful shows in their own different way, because Family Matters was extremely Family Matters you can pretty much relate, because you can probably relate to somebody next door that may act like Steve Urkel. maybe not to that extreme, but the only problem that I would have to say with Family Matters is that Urkel kind of took over the show, and it was all about Urkel. The show was still good, kind of sort of seeing the relationship between Laura and Steve Urkel kind of flourish a bit, even though Steve Urkel had many alter egos and it was all about him. I will say that Family Matter had its own charm because it was all about the other characters. Like, nobody was really left out. Sure, everyone loved Michelle, but everybody remembered Danny and Uncle Jesse and Uncle Joey. And I mean, everybody pretty much had their own character that fit in that show. It wasn't anyone that was separated out and one person that was over the other. When it came to Family Matters, it was all about Urkel after maybe the second season. But honestly, but it was still a good show. But I have to say, in my opinion, I would say Family Matters in that sense, not Family Matters, Full House in that sense was more of a family show because you had other characters that weren't excluded from the show. Even TJ, and not a lot of people remember her, but either or, I will have to say DJ. I say TJ, DJ, and that's talking about me forgetting her. But either or, we had everybody in the show that actually did work. We had Stephanie, we had TJ, DJ. See, you say TJ, and then we had Michelle, and we had Uncle Jesse, we had Uncle Joey, we had Danny Tanner. We had Uncle Jesse's girlfriend / wife, and I forgot her name, but either or, she was cool too. And then they ended up having twins. Either or, it was a family show within a family show within a family show, and you can probably remember most of the characters on the show. Seriously, especially the family dog. But honestly, guys, I really think that that Full House was practically the most successful one. But that's just in my opinion. Even though Family Matters was really a good show in its own right. But let's move on from there. I talked way too much about that show. Why does Jaleel White hate it when people mentions Urkel to him? Because it was typecast so bad. Like, he got typecast so bad, it made it difficult for him to find work. And that's what the biggest stigma is with some actors, is that they leave. For example, Christopher Eccleston was probably one of the best doctors I've ever seen in my life. He was he was the Ninth Doctor. And he was one of the best doctors I've ever seen. And he actually got me into watching the entire series. But he only did 1 year of it because he was afraid of what Doctor Who would actually do to him as an actor. He was afraid he'll be typecast, so he left a year early. Now, either or, he was far the best. But when it came to Urkel was so good, and we watched it for so long, to where that all we see him is Urkel. Like, we don't see him doing anything else. And that's the messed up part, especially if your job is to be an actor, and if getting parts is what you have to do to make your living, and you have this one character that's kind of stuck to you, it's difficult. You know, it's difficult to actually find other acting jobs. Another example, Amy Jo Johnson from the Power Rangers, the first season. She was the Pink Ranger. And she had to keep her distance from that because she was really serious about her acting career. So she had to keep her distance from that. And at one time, she really didn't want to even be seen or heard about that. And I kind of can understand that, because if that's your living, you got to do something to be able to make your living. And if you have one character that's attached to you, it's difficult to move forward. So in his case, he got the worst end. My next set of questions comes from Lonnie Lull. And this is kind of weird that you're asking me this, but if it's a question... Okay, did you know that I masturbate a lot? And if so, do I need help with my masturbation addiction? What is a lot? Like, if it's a lot to where it's so bad to where you literally have to pull over to go, if you literally have to pull over to masturbate on the side of the road, then yeah, you got a problem. But honestly, I didn't know you had an addiction. I didn't know you even had an armpit fetish. But if you feel like it's a problem, then maybe you should get help. The only person that will know if this is a problem is you. Not anything that I say or not any question that you send me. But if you really feel that this is something you need to fix, then maybe you should fix it. Moving on to the next set of questions from Lino Gino. What are your thoughts on a new costume for Scorpion called Cold War Scorpion in MK10? I actually think it's pretty cool. MKX is probably gonna be my next favorite game, and I'm really tempted to get an Xbox One for this because I know that this game is going to be awesome on the Xbox One, but I still have a 360, and even though it comes out on the 360, I still want it on the Xbox One. And seeing his costume, I was like, oh my gosh, this game is gonna be awesome. I love it. I love how it looks. I really do. Especially how it's 25 years later, which really makes no sense because half the characters that are on there now has actually died in MK9. Oh, spoiler alert for those that haven't played. But either or, it's MK. Not really everybody dies. Shoot, they killed Johnny Cage about 1,000 times. But anyway, why are they giving him a Cold War attire since Scorpion is actually Asian and not Russian? I don't particularly know. Maybe they call it Cold War because it maybe is a play on words since he's, I don't know, a specter that has fire. I don't know. I don't think it has anything to do with the Cold War. I think it's probably a play on words. What are your thoughts on Jason from Friday the 13th series being added to the DLC in MK10? Why? Seriously. The same thing with Freddy Krueger when they added Freddy Krueger and for MK9. Why? Like, for crying out loud, stop freaking going and doing all of these movie characters. Just stick to the what you know. Stick to the characters that we haven't seen. Like, for example, I found out freaking Tremor is on the DLC. If anybody hasn't played with Tremor, I know I haven't. I am excited. I have not played with Tremor. Tremor's costume is awesome, and they brought back Tanya. By far, I'm fine with that. Have characters from the original games. Stop adding in these movie people, okay? Please. But he's on there now, so whatever. He probably got a really lame fatality too. Well, it's MK10, so it's probably going to be extra brutal. But let's move on to your next question. If you could add another character from either game series or a horror movie, who would you choose and as a console exclusive character that already comes without downloading? Oh yeah, okay. Now I kind of see what you're saying, like a console exclusive, because I know that Xbox really didn't have one. Because I know that the PS4 had Kratos, and Xbox really didn't have one. So who will I have? Mostly, who did they not add? Like, seriously, I think they added pretty much everybody on there. The only exclusive that I would have for Xbox One is Shao Kahn. Seriously, bring back Shao Kahn. Shao Kahn or Kentaro. Well, Kentaro actually was a playable character. But either or, yeah. Bring back Shao Kahn from the dead. Shao Kahn or Shinnok. Because Shinnok was actually on Mortal Kombat 4 for those that had a PlayStation 4. Those who had a PlayStation 1, he was actually on Mortal Kombat 4. So have Shinnok or Shao Kahn as an exclusive character for the Xbox One, because Xbox was actually excluded. But moving on from there, do you think MK10 will be better than MK9, or will it be the same with newer things? Honestly, MK10 is actually going to be, and that's my dog snoring for anyone that's hearing anything. But either or, MK10 is going to be extremely brutal. I actually did see a lot of gameplay from it, and oh my gosh, it's already freaking brutal. I'm actually going to enjoy this. I really am. All the fatalities are just far out sick. The storyline alone is absolutely amazing, and it's by far, don't get me wrong, I love MK9, but MK9 was more of a love story, like a love letter to the fans. This is going to be definitely serious MK territory. They're finally going back to their darker roots, not so much of the whole gimmicky thing that they did before. This is going to be a really hardcore game, and I think that MK10 is going to by far surpass its previous successor, and I'm really looking forward to it. I really am. It's going to be a great game. Seriously. The next set of questions comes from Ray Busia. What if WWE gave Bryan a garbage man gimmick along with Eric Rowan and had them team up together in a garbage truck? That wouldn't work. Is Bray fighting Taker a waste of time since Taker already lost a streak to that part-time UFC fighter Brock Lesnar? Well, in my humble opinion, there's not going to be a match. I really believe that it's just going to be when the Undertaker is going to have a little bit of FaceTime. He's going to actually come out. He's going to tombstone Bray and leave. I really don't think it's going to be a match at all because Undertaker is in no condition to fight. He still isn't in any condition to fight. So I doubt that it is going to be a match. It's just going to be him come out and him tombstone Bray Wyatt and then leave. That's how I see it. So I really don't think it's going to be a match at all. And yeah, it is a waste of time. What if the WWE really gave a really racist gimmick to Kofi Kingston? In my humble opinion, I really wouldn't call it racist, but I'll call it more prejudice, and that's the New Day. He's already in somewhat of a prejudice gimmick, and that's the New Day. Well, not prejudice, but more like stereotypical. He's pretty much in a stereotypical gimmick, so whatever. I really wouldn't be surprised, but I doubt that Kofi Kingston will go through with it. I mean, there's only so much he will allow himself to do. Why is Kylie dating that thug rapper Tyga? I don't know nor care. It's up to her, honestly. If she decides to date him, it's up to her. I really don't care. And if I say that something is mean, I'm going to say something is mean. And if you don't like it, don't even write the question down. And that's for the question that you have for Bruce Jenner. If Bruce Jenner decides to transition himself as a woman, it's his choice. And if I say it's mean, I say it's mean. And if you say he's a disgrace to humanity, yes, that is mean. So if you don't want me to say it's mean, do not write that question down. Okay? Moving on from there to Regional D Huff. Do you think Bo Dallas looks like a girl? Not really. Which of the three do you think is the hottest one, and which of the and the most good looking? Victoria Justice, Ariana Grande, or Selena Gomez? Who is the prettiest of the three? Pick one only. I don't know. I guess Victoria Justice, in my opinion, because Victoria Justice has a little bit more substance than the other two. That's just me personally. Why is Ariana Grande a diva? I don't know. I really don't know. She just is one, I guess. I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you have a lot of people saying yes to you, sometimes that happens. If she is one, I don't know. I have no evidence if she is or not. But that's who she chooses to be, I guess. I have no idea. Did you know that Ariana knows how to speak Japanese? No, and good for her. That actually will come in handy if she actually tours out in Japan. She won't have to have a translator. So good for her. Does that tramp Gomez need to get over Beaver and move on with her miserable life? Good grief, dude. That's kind of mean. And yeah, I said mean. But either or, look, everybody has gone through heartbreak. Everybody has gone through that person that has meant so much in their lives that kind of overly consume them, and they go through withdrawals. That's what happens. They really do. She really does care about him. She really does, and that doesn't change. You're gonna miss somebody. You're gonna go through that period where you long for that person to be near you. So instead of saying to get over it, it's gonna take time. And I know you've probably been through it too. So I mean, you can relate to what she's going through. But anyway, moving on from there to my final set of questions from Jack the Talking Dildo. What if Randy Orton was still feuding? What if Randy Orton was still feuding with Kofi Kingston till this day? It would get old really fast. So I'm kind of hoping that they never do that. Ever. I mean, they had a great feud, but Randy Orton squashed that quickly. So Randy Orton might not have that last long. But anyway, moving on from there. What if The Miz was still feuding with Alex Riley to this day? It just like the whole Kofi Kingston thing, it ran its course. It's only so long it can go before it gets stale. So they have to come up with something new. So it would just get boring. It would just be stale and nobody would be interested anymore. What if Sheamus and Del Rio is still feuding? Well, that will never happen because Del Rio is actually at Lucha Underground as Del Patron. So I really doubt that that's going to ever happen. But if it does, I don't know. It should be cool. Well, actually, no, it really wouldn't. If they were still feuding, it would actually run its course. If anything that started from 2009 and lasted 4 years and they were still feuding, it would get old fast. So they need to cap it off and move on. That's pretty much what they need to do. Are you excited about the new character Predator in MK10? Honestly, Unlike Jason Voorhees and Freddy Krueger, I have to say that I'm okay with the Predator. I can deal with that. The Predator is somewhat of an MK character in itself. So I'm cool with that. Not to mention, if he has a decent backstory, I would love it, and I love to see what his fatality is because this dude is a straight up hunter. So honestly, I would love to see what they do with him. I'm fine with that. Not so much with Jason and not so much with Freddy, but I'm fine with the Predator. I'm kind of interested to see what they're gonna do. Why is Justin Bieber always sagging his pants and showing his underwear? Because he's an idiot. Enough said. But guys, thank you so much for sending me questions. If you have any more questions that you want to send me, by all means, send it to me via YouTube or on Twitter at RKH30 hashtag NatureGirl Q&A. It's NatureGirl30 signing off. Peace out. Later.
You don't wanna lose